again, if you give us money, you go to the top of the list. Let's go to Matthew, $9.99. Thank you, Matthew. Hey, can you explain why Tatis is so inconsistent? He routinely kills my Dodgers and probably will this weekend. He has MVP level talent, but the consistency of a politician.
I think he's hurt. I think the injury when he got beamed on May 3rd, the forearm injury, it must not be a fracture because they wouldn't let him play with a fracture, but it may have something to do with the strength in his arm and his ability to get around on balls. And, I mean, he's swinging and missing. His mechanics look different. I mean, he's playing the field okay. He's diving for balls, running into walls. He's going from foul line to dead center to make catches, but he's just not doing anything at home plate. I mean, his batting average since he got beamed is 188. They're not talking about it. Don't seem any questions from the media about it, which I don't quite understand. But he goes out there and he plays, I guess, as hard as he can. But they need him and Machado if they're going to be in the pennant race. And at this point in time, he's just a shell of himself, at least at home plate.
It's confounding because so many times when he would come up to the plate, I mean, you would just drop everything. You know, if you had the game on in the background or whatever, Tatis is up, man, you stop and you watch. And he would just crush the ball. He would do something incredible every game, it seemed. And now it's just a mystery, you know? So I don't know. Is a switch going to go off in his head and he's going to be all right? Are they overcoaching? Is he thinking too hard, trying too hard? Who knows what's going on, but at least they gave him a day off and maybe that'll help him.
You know, I thought to myself, it's one of three things. It's the forearm, or maybe there's something with an oblique, but he's still hitting some home runs. If it was the oblique, he wouldn't be able to get around with power. And then I thought, well, maybe it's a quad because he's had quad problems, but if it's a quad, then he's not running the bases the way he would, and he's not chasing balls in the outfield. So it can't be the quad. Maybe it's the oblique. Maybe it's the forearm. He's lost some strength in that arm and he can't get around on pitches, but it's an absolute mystery. And he's never had a stretch where he's hit this poorly for such a long period of time. Okay, next one.
Okay, again, money talks. Back to Matthew for $1.99. Thank you, Matt. Hey, San Diego FC fights need to stop, but don't just blame the LA fans.
Well, are you going to blame SDFC fans for responding to what LA Galaxy fans have done? John didn't like my idea. We ought to do what they did in Belgium, where they just partitioned off the end zone seats and put barbed wire up there with security. And that ended the riots in Belgium and in England because they were really bad. I mean, we had deaths in Belgium and Ireland and England because of those type of brawls. I see no other solution there. You know, they say, well, we're going to ban the play. Well, how are you going to ban the season ticket holders from coming? How are you going to ban the guys from going to LA and buying tickets to watch a game up there? I don't quite understand that, but this has to stop. But it to me, because there've now been a bunch of different incidents and both of them wrapped around when the LA Galaxy fans came down here. It's one thing to have a rivalry. It's another thing to have involved brawls and bad incidents with people and just vile language, etc.
Well, it's all part of sports in a weird way. I'm not condoning it, but you know, people get fired up and they're, you know, especially in soccer, you know, they got their cheers and their drums and all the different things that are going on.
And they're fueled.
Oh, that too. But you know, hey, the Galaxy fans stole the banner from SDFC
and hung it upside down.
Yeah, it was like Bob Marley or something like that. And so, you know, you can point your finger in a lot of different places. We can't go to barbed wire. I mean, that's like Deathmatch 2000 kind of a thing.
Did in Belgium.
Well, yeah, but you said people were getting killed. That's a whole other level. Now, we still see drunken people fighting in the stands at Raider games and at, you know, even at Dodger Padre games. And so, yeah, you got to get under control. But I think you got to figure out a way to self-police it. I mean, because you can have the police presence, but the fans themselves have got to be able to step in and stop it.
Barbed wire, babe.
Barbed wire.
Okay, next one.
Okay, let's go here to Showtime LA. And he says, I got to say, I'm getting very sick of all these Dodgers pitchers going down, especially the prospects that I hyped up. Really sickening. Hope Friedman and company can figure out the solution.
I mean, it is stunning. They have now had 18 pitchers on the disabled list this year, and it's only the first week of June. 18. Think about that. And the top 5 AAA prospects are all gone for the year, rehabbing from surgery. The Dodgers, who last year used 40 different pitchers to get to the World Series, have already used 27 this season. I don't have an explanation. Stan Kasten and Andrew Friedman have to be held accountable. I asked questions of baseball people as to why this is happening, and they say everybody is searching for velocity and spin rate. And even in their bullpen sessions, the Dodgers pitchers want to do this in bullpen sessions where we're not supposed to throw max effort in bullpens, but they're trying to polish what they're doing in their bullpens between starts. So that adds a wear and tear factor. But it's like that everywhere in baseball. And the psyche of the pitcher, Walker Buehler, we talked about this prior. Walker Buehler, the ex-Dodger who's now with the Red Sox and has had 2 of these surgeries, Walker Buehler said, if I pitch well, we win. If I pitch well, I get a contract. If I get hurt while I'm pitching well, no problem. I'll get it repaired. I'll come back and I'll do it again. So the players have accepted that there is a risk involved to do it because they help their team win and they get a big contract at the same time. But the Dodgers, they lead the world in pitching breakdowns. It's just absolutely stunning. And historically, the Dodgers always did a good job of drafting physical specimens, building them up, recruiting them, and then getting them experience and getting them to Dodger Stadium. But now they're getting them hurt. They're getting hurt at AAA, and they're getting hurt at the major league level, and they're getting hurt multiple times too.
Okay, here's a kind of a crazy thought. Like you're saying, the Dodgers have used 27 pitchers
so far. They
used 40 last year, which is mind-boggling. What if they went, instead of going to like a 5-man rotation, like they went to a 6 or a 7-man rotation, which would span out the starts? Do you think that could minimize the injuries? Because they're still going to throw hard. There's still going to be spin rate. They're still going to be competitive. But if they just threw a little bit less?
Oh, that's a good question. You have a 26-man roster. The limit on the roster is 13 pitchers.
Well, maybe that needs to change.
Well, true. But if you allow people to have 14, that means Dave Roberts has got virtually no bench, and you're going to get injuries to your catcher, etc. My reaction, go to a 27-man roster, give everybody the opportunity to carry 14, because then you can have a 6-man rotation. But that does not mean you're going to get 6 quality starters, because pitching is really thin.
Right.
Do the Padres have 6 quality starters? Hell no, they got 2.5 right now that are healthy.
Right.
So even if you have 6, what's the 5th and 6th guy going to be like? And if everybody's throwing 5 innings and having to come out because the pitch count's 98, you're going to the bullpen all the time. So I don't think there's any perfect solution to the situation. And you can't mandate, don't throw sliders or sweepers. You can't do that. And don't mandate, we don't want you to push to look for 105 miles an hour, even though that's damaging to the arm. So I think the increased roster and the chance everybody would carry 14 pitchers, which would spread the workload out, but that's not guaranteeing you're getting 14 quality major league pitchers. That's a problem.
Well, but they need arms. They use healthy arms. Yep. So why not go to 18 pitchers and make the total roster 30? Or something like that. But
that's 30. I mean, the amount of money you have, because it's all part of the union agreement.
Yeah.
If every time you add a player to the roster, that's a fixed amount of money the club has to spend on that next player.
Right.
Which is benefits and everything else. I mean, a base salary of young pitchers is $450,000 per man. So we're sitting here at 13 pitchers now. You can go to 14, or you just said, well, let's go to 16 or 17 pitchers.
Yeah.
That's all guaranteed salaries.
Yeah.
But
the revenue is up. The TV ratings are up. I mean, they got to figure out a way to address it, to at least try to fix it. But they just seem like they just throw up their arms like this and say, we can't do anything.
Well, Stan Kasten and Friedman, 2 of the smartest people in baseball historically for their accomplishments, and they said they're going to look at it, solve it. I don't see any solution. 18 guys on the disabled list right now, and it's only in June, 18 pitchers. And
well, that's their solution. Their solution is they got a crazy deep pitching organization, right? So they've always got arms. They've always got live bodies that are coming up. And that's the only way they can overcome it.
And the guys keep breaking, though.
Right. And then you just have to keep swapping them in. But if you space them out a little more, maybe you can preserve their health. But then if a starter like Blake Snell is not getting 30 starts a year, maybe he's only doing 20 starts a year because it's a 7 or 8 man, rotation, then maybe he doesn't get enough money. He doesn't get the same money. Yeah, it does get tricky.
Okay, we move on. Good question. Good arguing point.
Okay, let's go here to Lenny. And he goes, Duran won't be a free agent for 3 years. I would give a rise for him.
Well, Arise is a walk free agent. But see, the problem with that, Lenny, is you're filling a hole in left field, which is a black hole right now. The Padres, I think, have used 7 different outfielders, and their batting averages have gone from 220 down to 0-0-0 of the 7 guys they have. And I think collectively, their overall batting averages right now is 175. But so if you get Duran, but you create a black hole at first base, and you take a pretty good hitter, major league hitting champion 2-3 years in a row, you take him out, you've changed the dynamic, you fix left field, but now you got a black hole at first base. No? And again, Arise, keep this in mind, Arise is a walk free agent at the end of the season. So is Boston going to give you Duran and rent Arise for half a season? Boston, by the way, also wants pitching. You want Jason Adam, you're going to take Adrian Morejon? There's got to be something else in the deal. So I don't know that Boston would take a rise just on himself because he's only there for a half year.
Well, we've speculated about, if Jake Cronenworth was ever going to pick up an outfield glove, and we've seen him move to first, and I know he prefers to be at second, but if you've got someone like Iglesias that can play second base and, brilliant defender, hitting is, so. Cronenworth's a hell of a lot better of a player overall than like Tyler Wade or Brandon Lockridge. To me, that would be a short-term solution, but I wonder if that would piss Jake Cronenworth off because he doesn't want to get jacked around. He doesn't want to have to go play in the outfield.
Yeah, but he's got the contract. He'd go play anywhere because he's just a baseball player.
But Rafael Devers doesn't want to go play anywhere. He wants to play third base.
He's a superstar.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have to do something. But I said last week when we were here, Lenny, we went through the list. There's about 7 guys that I've been told that they might get access to. Now, you might not be turned down by Andrew McCutchen, but that guy's a serviceable 1-year rental. And that's what you're looking for, is to be in the pennant race. And if Andrew McCutchen can hit 245, go chase down every ball in the left field, and he does have some occasional pop and power, then why not? And you can get him at a much better price than you could if you're trying to get Jarren Duran. And again, the minute that word got out in Boston last week, 5 clubs called the Red Sox about trying to make a deal for Duran. So there might be other people that are better matches for Duran. And I'm not even sure Boston's sold that they got to move Duran.
Well, you know what? Preller has boots on the ground. You've talked about that. He's always going to restock.
He's calling everybody.
He is. So this is going to be fun to watch how this evolves. Hey, let's keep going here. We'll go to, who is this? A new guy here, Pazzy Star. Roman Anthony, let's go.
The guy must be calling from Fenway Park.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying in Boston, too. He's done everything. And if you have not seen the home run that he hit at AAA Worcester in the International League, you got to go find it on YouTube. It is a monster shot, 497 feet, grand slam home run. I think he'll be in Boston probably by the end of the week. There's an awful lot of public pressure being put on the Red Sox right now. Let's fix this thing. And, they've been badly damaged by injuries. And that's been a really big problem there in Boston. And, the fact that Bregman's hurt, he's got a quad injury, and that's taken some of the oomph out of the lineup. Ralph Devers is playing really well. He might not be totally happy, but he's playing really well. But the pitching staff has been chewed up by injuries. There's just not enough help for Garrett Crochet in the rotation at this point in time. And Buehler wound up going on the deal again after we had a 4-1 start and pitching very well. But this Roman Anthony kid, he looks like he's a player.
Isn't Roman just like a great sports name? Because you think of like some statue,
The Roman Empire.
Yeah, and you think of Roman Gabriel. I mean, he was the Rams quarterback. What was that era? Is that mostly the 60s, wasn't it?
60s, 70s, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so that was just, I remember the name Roman Gabriel. He just sounded like he was, one of the Roman gods.
That's right. Okay, we move on.
We move on. Okay, let's go here to our friend John. He goes, hey, I'm a bit surprised that the Dodgers-Padres opener isn't on the national telecast tonight. Does MLB think the Marlins and Pirates are going to make viewers turn away from the NBA or NHL playoffs?
I think it's stupid. But, they everybody in Major League Baseball gets promised some national exposure. Marlins, Pirates? You're kidding me.
How many people are going to show up for that game?
Well, not many people show up for the games, but they do have baseball fans probably sit at home on TV and watch. So
okay.
It's a weird scenario. What's really strange. Here's the sidebar to that. Tampa Bay's attendance has just been really poor for the Rays for a long time. Their TV ratings are phenomenal in Pinellas County and on the West Coast. Yeah. And the Sun Coast of Florida.
All those retired folks.
They're just sitting at home watching it. Yeah. I'm going to the game. I'm sitting there. I love baseball. Just weirdly.
Well, they're probably paying a subscription for it.
Exactly.
And by the way, did you notice that the Padre game over the weekend one of the games was on Roku?
Why?
And I had to I was fortunate I could download the Roku app onto my smart TV.
And you didn't call me.
And it was free.
Oh.
No, we have to set your TV up so you can get all that other streaming stuff. That's we need to have a sit down here. You still have like the rabbit ears with the tinfoil on them. Okay, let's keep moving here. We'll go here to Roy. And Roy says, hey, what other MLB team could sustain the number of pitchers on the injured list and still be in first place in the best division of MLB? Answer, only the 24 World Series champion Dodgers.
Best team money can buy, but money can't buy you health. There's something intrinsically wrong with the way the Dodgers handle pitching, develop pitching, and treat pitching. The number of surgeries it's been beyond belief in baseball. Nobody else has had these numbers to the magnitude that the Dodgers have had. You can be excited the Dodgers have a deep farm system and have successfully drafted and developed pitchers, but you can't be excited at the wear and tear factor. So, for somebody that spent the winter trying to research how they should do something differently to protect the arms, it hasn't happened. Look what's happened this year. It's stunning to me. And those are smart guys. I know Stan Kasten. I like him. And obviously, the track record of Andrew Friedman is very, very impressive. But at the end of the day, you lead the world not only in wins and all that and World Series, you lead the world in pitchers breaking down, getting hurt. That's not a good statistic.
Well, Roy has a follow-up, and he's kind of taking a shot at you, Lee. And he says, Lee, last year you said the Dodgers were done because no pitching. I told you we had a World Series lineup. I believe I was right. This year you are singing the same song, but our pitching will be healthy in October.
We'll see. There's no doubt. Now, I don't know if Roy would have written those exact lines when the Padres were up 2-1 and the Dodgers had a bullpen day in October and the series was about to end. I don't think he would have sent that fans forum statement at that point in time, but they got it done. So that's why they deserve. They win the World Series. That's what makes the rivalry really, really great. But I'm dealing with the facts of where they are right now and all these pitchers who are hurt.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. I mean, and here's another comment about pitchers, but from the Padres, from Arnie. He goes, Padres need pitching. Don't give away the pitching.
Well, they're wafer thin. I mean, they have nothing at AAA. And I am stunned that they've gotten the quality innings that they've gotten from Kolek and from Ryan Burgett, and to a degree from Vasquez. Randy gives you good starts. He always has a bad inning that kind of puts you in a hole and gets you in trouble. But those three starters, it's like Waldron last year, the first half of last season. Matt Waldron saved the Padres, trying to keep them in the pennant race. Well, these guys, what a contribution they've gotten from these guys, but they just cannot afford to have anybody else get hurt. And now, Yu Darvish has disappeared from the conversation. Now they're using the term 6 weeks when making reference to Michael King. That's not good. What do they got? 2.5 starting pitchers that you can trust. And then the rentals here, they say, oh boy, Burgett's going to throw. Fingers crossed.
No, he's done great.
So far.
He has. And I think, did you see when Jackson Merrill was interviewed? It was in the Roku game, I think, and said he came up through the minors with Burgett, and Burgett always got him in live BP. He said it was a hell of a pitcher. But you know what pitcher has just been getting burned out, worn out, is that Jason Adam. And people are starting to hit him now, and I'm worried that they've been throwing him too often.
They used him 11 times in 17 days.
Yeah, that's too much.
I think so.
Yeah.
And They've used Suarez a lot. They used Suarez for 2 full innings, which is just absolutely amazing to me. Morillon has pitched really well, but they're tapping in him for, a lot. Same thing with Peralta. They're doing it because the starters can't get beyond 90 pitches, and some of these guys are getting 4 1/3 innings. They have to go pull them.
Well, like Randy Vasquez, you brought him up, an interesting guy because every time he pitches, you're just sort of nervous. You're on the edge of your seat.
You're waiting for the bad inning.
You're waiting for it to blow up, and then somehow magically he kind of gets out of it. But in one of the games over the weekend, he went 4 2/3 innings and gave up no runs. And you got to love that.
But he walked 5, I think it was, and he was at 95 pitches.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. But I'm going to go back to this thing. Is with baseball, the way they do scorekeeping, you have to go 5 innings as a pitcher to get the win. Do you think that's kind of a Bush League thing? I mean, do you think Vasquez deserved the win going 4 2/3?
That's tradition. They're not going to change it, I don't think. Baseball's got a lot more problems than keeping score at home and the fact you don't like anything traditional.
Well, I think when they go to arbitration, I'm sure his agent is bringing up these things, so even though the win-loss record might not be as good.
Stop trying to change the game, John.
Okay.
Let's move on. Thanks for the input.
Okay, here's some XX Revolution. Bonjour du Canada.
Au revoir.
And then here's another one from one of our Canadian friends. This is Schickster. Go Jets, go. Go Bombers. Go Sea Bears. Who are the Sea Bears?
College team.
Okay.
The Canadian Football League season started this past weekend. If you had spent time, you probably would have found a CFL game on your TV dial. Canadian League's got a lot of really good quarterbacks this year, and the guys are putting up really good numbers first weekend of the CFL. So we'll talk more about that as we go along. But those are all at this year. They got more Canadian quarterbacks in the CFL than they've ever had in years gone by. Led by the kid that came from the NFL, Nathan Rourke, has just gone back to the BC Lions. I think his first game back this year, opening night, he threw for 384 and 4 touchdowns. He's a really good football player. He went to my alma mater, Ohio University. But Canadian Football League has just started because they play 18 games, but it's a really, really different game. Wear and tear factor on the players is not as bad as it is here in the NFL.
Whenever I watch a Canadian football game, I'm always freaked out by how many players are in motion in offense.
Everybody's in motion.
Yeah, and
three downs.
Yeah, and you got these, receivers that they're sprinting towards the line of scrimmage, so they got a big jump. But I was listening to one of the talk shows on 97.3. I can't remember which one it was, and they had a trivia question about in Canada, what is the national sport in the summertime? And I had assumed that it was Canadian football. But it was lacrosse. Do they have like a lacrosse league in Canada?
Yeah, it's historically lacrosse has always been big. Rugby has always been big. Before the Canadian Football League was born, it was actually the Canadian Rugby League that evolved into the CFL.
Interesting.
So, but CFL there's only 9 teams. The cost of the player salaries are a lot less than the NFL. They don't get the brand of player that we do. Yes, there has been the uniqueness of Doug Flutie, who went there, and Warren Moon, who went there. It's a wide open game. It's a very different game. So I'd like to think it could be more like the NFL, but they have their standards. They never met John Riley, who wants to change everything all the time. So it's just a very, very different game. And I first came across it in the 1950s on black and white TV. I said, wow, this is really different. But just understand this. The 2 biggest religions in Canada are Catholicism and the National Hockey League. As long as you understand that,
right,
we're okay.
Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go here to Greg. And he goes, hey, Leah John, what do you think of my Dodgers Mount Rushmore of Dodgers pitchers? He's got Koufax, Drysdale, Hershiser, and Valenzuela. Does Kershaw belong there? Great show.
Well, Kershaw is right on the edge. But again, we're talking Koufax for that short window of greatness, Drysdale for the long career, Hershiser for the accomplishments, Valenzuela for what he accomplished, not only on the mound in 9 years, but what he meant to baseball and marketing of baseball. I think Fernando El Toro is hugely responsible for the explosive rebirth of interest in Mexico of Major League Baseball. Kershaw's right there. Kershaw's great. But if Mount Rushmore only has 4, how you got to have a 5th one there? But that's okay. Kershaw's in his 18th year. Think about that, 18 years throwing balls and strikes.
Yeah, it's incredible that he's still playing. I mean, really. But I'm thinking of other names like Don Larson. Okay.
Yeah, but he was in and out for a short period of time.
But he had that one, was it a no-hitter or a perfect game?
Yeah, the perfect game, but that's a one-time occurrence.
But I just remember when I grew up in the 70s, Giants, Dodgers, it was Don Sutton. It was Bob Welch. Those were the 1 and 2 starter, I think, from back in that
And
year.
the Giants had what, Marichal?
Well, that's in the 60s.
Okay.
But in the 70s, when I was following, and the Giants had John the Count Montefusco and Jim Barr and Ed Halicki, the Giant killer or the Dodger killer.
Well, those guys
Vida Blue.
Those guys that have to pay admission to go look at who's up on Mount Rushmore.
Well, yeah, clearly, yeah. But so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking Koufax and Drysdale for sure. Kershaw and Valenzuela. I think that's it. And I think you're right. Kershaw doesn't make the cut. It's probably number 5.
Nothing wrong with being number 5.
Nothing
considering
wrong.
How many guys pitched for the Dodgers dating back to Flatbush and Ebbets Field.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's a fun question.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
Okay, let's keep on trucking here, and I want to get some new folks in. Hector says, Lee, with the Braves being a dumpster fire, do you see Sale being on the block? What would it cost the Dodgers? Side note, Roman Anthony was called up. Abreu going on the injured list.
Well, in terms of Atlanta, they've just been wrecked by injuries. I don't know that they want to get rid of Chris Sale. I mean, Sale's been spectacular. He's reinvented himself down there compared to where he was before. White Sox, Red Sox, etc. They've got good baseball people. They try really hard. They drag a lot of guys in there off the free agent market to bring in there, and they got guys who've come through rehab. The pitchers, they're always adding guys to their AAA farm club just to take a look at and see. So I think historically, Alex, the general manager, Antelopoulos, I think he's done a great job because he tries really hard. But they've had so many injuries to everyday players and their pitching staff. So this is unfortunately, it's been a washout of a season for the Braves.
Profar is going to come back soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had that
80
suspension.
games.
So he'll be back around July 1, sort of.
I want to say post All-Star game, maybe.
Okay. But the Braves are going to be there at the end. I'm confident they are. I mean, last year, the Mets were struggling this time of the year, and they got to the NLCS. So I think the Braves are. I don't see them trading Sale.
But they've got to get healthy, and at this point, they're not totally healthy.
Well, Acuna's back.
Yep.
So they're getting there.
We'll see. A lot of games, but you don't want to be 22 games out of first place. That's a big hill to run up. Somebody else that's really staggering is not having the kind of season they've had in the past is Philadelphia. Philly's got so many guys hurt. Now Bryce Harper's on the disabled list. So at this point in time, Philadelphia, Nola has not come back to be the dominant guy that he was before. Zach Wheeler is having another good season. Bullpen's a little shaky. So Philadelphia is quite not the same team. They're not hitting the tons of home runs they hit before. Real Muto's been hurt. Castellanos is just not having statistically the kind of year that he's had. Now, Bryce Harper's got a wrist problem. He just went on the DL over the weekend. So the teams that you're looking at that might be wild card teams, some of them are really dinged up.
Well, I mean, which team has the least problems? I mean, every team's got big problems, holes, injuries.
Surprise to me, and we'll do this when we get to midseason. We'll do a midseason report card. Well, I am surprised the Cubs have done so well first half of the season. I'm really surprised at St. Louis because I did not think they were going to have a really good season, but yet some of their pitchers have bounced back. Arenado's had a quiet, good year. He's still stuck in St. Louis. They never worked out a trade for him. I would say those two. The fact the Mets are where the Mets are in the standings just boggles my mind because I just don't like the Mets pitching, but everybody's hitting with the exception of who, Juan Soto. But Pete Alonso's having a really good season, and some of their other, Jeff McNeil's finally healthy. He's hitting home runs. The third baseman, although he got dinged up, Vientos has played well. So I'm just surprised the Mets pitching has held up the way it has because I just didn't think they were very good to begin with. And then on the flip side, in the American League, I think Yankees, that's a surprise to me. Because without Garrett Cole and without a lot of help for Aaron Judge, the Yankees have got a really good record. I told you so. Detroit would be good. And they got the best record in baseball at this point in time. So we get 2/3 of a season to go, and there'll be some more changes along the way.
Yeah. I mean, the Tigers is the one that really surprises me. All right, let's keep moving here. I'll go back to Derek here. And Derek says, hey, if Aaron Rodgers comes out and has a great season for the Steelers and takes them deep in the playoffs, I will eat my words, but I don't think it'll happen without him making it all about him.
Well, we'll see. Pittsburgh does not like distractions, and they eventually get rid of guys, all those wide receivers that create distractions. But if Rodgers buys in and he goes through his first workout tomorrow, if he buys into all things Tomlin and he sees what's around him and he sees he can be a difference maker without being exposed 45 times and throwing the football, and without taking all the kinds of hits he took in Green Bay, and then obviously what happened to him with the Jets, heck, that might be a 1 year plus an additional year coming if he has a successful season. All I know is this: he's better than anything they've had since Roethlisberger was forced into retirement because Ben had 200,000 miles on him and was having all these injuries. This is a better quarterback than anybody, and he's surrounded by a very good young offensive line, and he's got some receivers. He's got a load of tight ends, and this defense is really good. He's never had a defense like this in a long time, dating back to when he was with the Packers. So we'll just see what kind of season he's going to have. I think he's got gas left in the tank. I think they're going to do okay.
That division's still tough, though. I mean, it's the Ravens, right?
Well, it's the Ravens, and that's all it is.
Okay.
Cleveland is not a factor any longer. Cincinnati that thing is so screwed up because they're cheap on every player. And yeah, they got Burrow and they got the wide receivers, but they don't give a crap about their defense. They're letting guys go, and they got this Trey Hendrickson problem. I don't think Cincinnati's a player. I don't think it's a powerhouse division. So right there for Pittsburgh, if they stay free of injury and Aaron Rodgers has an Aaron Rodgers statistical season, they're going to be pretty decent, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch. Hey, check this out from Mike. A good day from Houston. Man, you're Baja to the Canadian Rockies out to Houston.
In Lone Star State.
Yeah.
Texans, well-run organization. Big D'Amico Ryans fan. Actually, that general manager came from New England, has done a really good job stockpiling talent. They've gone through a little bit of a transition in the offensive front, like C.J. Stroud. And, now they're going to be too deep at running back. They get Nick Chubb, and they're not going to ask Nick Chubb to carry it 250 times a game. If Chubb can be what Chubb was in Cleveland, or in and around all the knee injuries, I think Houston's a really well-run football franchise.
I just remember the Oilers. Wasn't that a great time, man? And
Love You Blue.
It's wonderful. I mean, and they were like competitive with the Steelers there for a while in the 70s. It was a great rivalry. So I still haven't fully jumped in with the Texans, but Houston has a lot of great sports history.
Oh, yes.
You figure out Phi Slamma Jamma. You got the Astros with Nolan Ryan back in the Astrodome back in the day.
And Bum Phillips, Love You Blue.
Bum Phillips, the Rockets, the Twin Towers. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in Houston sports history.
Weather sucks, but yes.
Yeah, it can suck. I agree with you there.
Okay, Houston, I hope you become a regular. Tell all your friends who we are and what we're doing here, because we do sports talk the way it should be done. John, let's do a couple more.
A couple of quick ones here. This is when we were talking about the NHL guys in the studio, and Callan says Paul Bissonnette, and then John said Paul Bissonnette, and then John says Paul missed the net.
Well, he was a grinder. He was a fighter. Unique personality. I guess the correct term is journeyman, because he's been all over the parking lot. Real scrapper of a player, but he does okay on the set. You just got to tone him down a little bit. Don't drink too much coffee or too much beer. But he's okay. And my only beef is there's too many guys talking at the same time, and too many guys telling inside stories that don't make a hell of a lot of sense to the average fan. But Bissonnette he's found a role. He wants to be a cartoon character. That's okay. I mean, he shows up on the set one day, John, wearing a Toronto Maple Leaf Alumni Association jacket that they hand out to former Maple Leaf players.
Mm-hmm.
And he's wearing a Maple Leaf dress shirt with the actual Maple Leaf and a Maple Leaf tie. I mean, he's a poor man's version of Don Cherry from A Hockey Night in Canada, who used to dress like that all the time. But Biz is doing okay. I mean, he's obviously developed a niche, and that's cool. I want to hear what each of these guys got to say, but when they're talking over each other all the time, I can't figure it out. It's just too much noise.
Yeah, they got to police that.
Yes.
That's on the primary host to
That's
really
on the director.
and the director, yeah, to get that straight. But I'll tell you what, those guys are good personalities.
Yes.
I'm enjoying them, and thanks for kind of breaking down some of their history.
Yeah.
Okay, Callan had some more hockey talk here. He goes, "Afternoon, gents. I'm of the belief that pulling of Oettinger cost DeBoer his job. Not a surprise since it happened before Fleury in Vegas. What would be a good spot for him to land?"
I don't know. He's been with 4 different clubs, I believe. You're talking about DeBoer as a head coach. He's won, but he's also been fired all the time. So I don't know if they go forward with him at this point. There aren't very many hockey jobs open now that Boston and the Pittsburgh Penguins have finally filled their job. So maybe he winds up sitting a year. He had only a year left on his contract. I'm not sure what he could have done with Jake Oettinger, but the fact is that, they were down in the series. Oettinger let in 2 more goals very early. And I did not know the statistic that Oettinger was 1-6 against the Oilers in games going back a year and a half, that Edmonton seemed to have his number. Now, is that all Oettinger, or is that the system in front of Oettinger with the defenseman breaking down? Maybe that's a piece of the equation. But he didn't handle it very well. He never had an exit meeting with the goaltender. And the post-game press conference when he got bombarded about what you did to your star goaltender, if I were King, if I were the coach, I would have said, we're not here in the playoffs. We're not for that goaltender. But I'll also tell you the goaltender was 1-6 against the Edmonton Oilers over a year and a half's time. And I just felt we needed a spark. We needed to get some stops. And unfortunately, we didn't get it. But I would have saluted him, because your ass would not have been in the playoffs had not been for Jake for a long period of time. And Jake's given him a bunch of years, and he's got a big multi-year contract. So I think DeBoer kind of mishandled that a little bit, and maybe he got kind of defensive, and his responses weren't really properly framed. They should have been.
You want to get some social media in?
Oh, I'm sure there's a few people have a few opinions. Yes.
Okay. Well, see, we got this. I just love all the fans chiming in here. It's terrific. Okay. Let's start here with Charlie Himmelberger. He says, "Great episode, Lee. I remember listening to you talk about Norv Turner, AJ Smith, and the Country Club on 1090. I'm glad to see you're still talking San Diego sports and sports in general."
Well, we talk all topics on the table. All the Chargers were not happy with me when, they won early on. Norv Turner won with Schottenheimer's players that were left behind when Marty got tossed after a 14-2 season. But you could tell the track was going downhill. And I didn't think they had leadership. They did not have a firebrand coach. I mean, and I like Norv. Norv is a real intellect. I thought he's a very fine gentleman. But here was Marty at one end of the spectrum in terms of passion play approaches to things. And here's Norv at the other end, who is just, everything is nice. And I didn't see any firebrand leadership there on that roster. And I said, man, I'm tired of this Charger Country Club. And they weren't winning. I mean, they were winning, but they weren't winning, and they were going in the wrong direction after what Marty had left behind. So they got upset at me. And North's track record is great as a coordinator. Moore's track record as a head coach, it was a good offensive coordinator. But he kept getting these head jobs based on what he'd done initially with Jimmy Johnson and the Dallas Cowboys. Fine gentleman, really fine guy. I don't think he was a great head coach. And AJ Smith did a great job in terms of drafting, and then he started making mistakes, and the whole thing got away from him, and the rest is history. And then he got fired too.
Just goes to show you have to be a special kind of a man, a special character to be an NFL head coach. Because again, I didn't know Norv the way you've known him. And he always seemed like a brilliant guy that really knew the game and had the great history, but he just never struck me as a leader of men. And like the guy in the locker room that was going to rally the troops. Now, maybe he was, I just didn't see it, but it never struck me that way.
Well, his track record didn't show that he was a great head coach. But, leader of men come in all different forms and fashion. Tony Dungy's a great head coach. This guy's quiet, and this guy is refined, and this guy's a Catholic, and he's just really different. John Gruden had a good run, and he was a screamer and a yeller. Chuck Noll was about as laid back and refined a person as you could ever find. And look at all the Super Bowls he won. Jimmy Johnson, rah, rah. How about them Cowboys? I'll tell you, he was on the edge all the time. So coaches, you can't judge coaches on how they look, how they interview, what they say. It's obviously whom they hire as their assistants, how they mold it, and how the players respond to them. But every good coach gets fired. Schottenheimer would save the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, he went in there with a new general manager, and they saved Kansas City. Kansas City had been a deplorable franchise, and they put that thing on the map, and that was tough guy football. But at the end of the day, they ran out of steam, and he got bounced. He comes here, and he reinvents the Chargers, and he did a great job, and he's an intellect, really smart guy. But then the problems with A.J. Smith led to his demise here, and he never coached again. We did not know that dementia had started to overtake Marty. Of course, he's a former linebacker, former player in the old AFL, and he went really, really quick, and he became very quiet. He went into obscurity, a very private person, and next thing you know, he had passed. I mean, he went so quick. It was absolutely stunning, but it was the end result of dementia and Alzheimer's, and it came on very, very quickly. So, but coaches come in all sizes and shapes, and screamers and yellers, and refined and quiet people, and classy guys and assholes, and they check off all the boxes.
Now, have you ever met or interviewed Jerry Glanville?
Yes.
I mean, he must have been something.
Yeah, he was a loose cannon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was loud and boisterous. He wasn't a great head coach. He was a really good defensive coordinator. Well, he's always a good quote. Holy crap. That's all I cared about was, okay, what are you going to say to me on my talk show that it's going to be neat? And he would always, he's an old Western Kentucky boy, but I don't think not a great head coach.
Yeah, it is a fun name just to bring up. Okay, let's go here, talk a little bit about the RoboUmps, and this is from D. Wilson. He goes, amen. The umpires seem to enjoy screwing people, or they're incompetent, or both. Enough is enough.
We went through stretches where the umpires, Major League Baseball, first of all, took over control of the umpires. They formed their own association. We used to have American League umpires and National League umpires. And the theory was we had an AL strike zone and an NL strike zone, and that changed. And we had a good stretch of time where umpires were doing a much better job, but then the home plate started to move, and the strike zone got weird, top to bottom, side to side. I was told in the off season that baseball had sent out a new set of rules as it relates to what is the strike zone, and they made it tighter. There was not as much a gray area on the outer edge, and they tried to make it more consistent top to bottom. So this is the box you call strikes. And through first third of this season, I thought I saw a lot more consistency in balls and strikes, but my goodness, in the last month, it's gotten weird again. And for any umpire that's going to beef about RoboUmps and the use of computers and challenges, you brought it on yourself because of the inconsistency of the strike zone. Now, is it tough to call balls and strikes? Probably is, because the stuff these guys throw is so wicked and has such bite and moves. And you got catchers that are moving around and trying to frame pitches. So it's too bad. But when you got technology, use the technology to make the game as perfect as you can. And based on what we've seen in the National Football League, the technology has helped make that game more perfect in terms of coming to a final decision. I'm not sure that allowing only 2 challenges per team is the right way to use the RoboUmp, the computer, if you will, the ABS system. Maybe that'll be refined as we get to the winter and the off season. But I think umpiring's hard, and it's gotten tougher because there's no consistency at all as to what is a strike. You watch the Dodger Padre games for the next 3 nights and tell me if you see consistency, home plate umpire to home plate umpire, in terms of what's a strike versus what's off the edge, which is not.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just so subjective, and we want it objective, strike or ball, and it's consistent and it's in the target zone. But remember, like as a kid, we were always told the strike zone was from the letters to the knees. But in pro ball, it's like from the belt to the knees, maybe the belly button to the knees,
Mm-hmm.
So what is the definition of the strike zone according to the rule book? And when they do this ABS system, are they going to do what the rule book says or what they've kind of morphed into? It's bizarre that it's just so fuzzy.
Yeah, there's such a gray area. What is a strike? What is not a strike? And there's no consistency from crew to crew with the gray area.
Right, exactly.
So it's a tough call, and you want to get the game right. You got the technology, use the technology.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
We move on.
Okay, let's go here to talk a little hockey. This is from Martin. He goes, Mitch Marner is far from a sniper. 25-ish goal scorers are not snipers, bud. But he is a top-notch player, 520 assists, 741 points in 657 games. He plays on the penalty kill and is a premier two-way player.
I guess the burning question with the story that broke out of Toronto today, is he a $14 million a year guy? Because supposedly that's the report that the Ducks, who have a lot of cap space, a lot of young players, that the Ducks think that if they can get a guy that scores 35 goals a year and plays all the time, plays on the power play, plays on the penalty kills, responsible at both ends of the ice, he's not a personality. He's not a pick up the flag, follow me guys. That's not him. But man, he plays all the time. But $14 million a year, if I was going to pay $14 million, I think I'd want to have a sniper. Now, there's not a hell of a lot of snipers out there right now in the National Hockey League, but he's a really good player. There's 221 career goals, and as you say, 520 career assists. He's a pretty good team player. But 14 mil is an amazing amount of money for a hockey player.
Well, there's another Mitch Marner comment that came in as well, and this one was from Phil, and he goes, who cares? The guy's talented, but not a playoff guy. I'd take Corey Perry over Marner in the playoffs any day. I can name about 35 players who make a fraction of the current contract that are way better when it's a tougher game.
Well, Marner has not produced postseason. Neither has Austin Matthews, who's making 11 to 12 million per year in Toronto. That's why there's going to be a divorce probably with Mitch Marner. But the stars always get paid what the stars get paid. Corey Perry's had a really great career, but Corey Perry is 40 years of age. And Corey Perry is evolved into a role player. He came through some real tough personal situations with alcohol. In fact, he took a leave of absence from the league. A lot of people didn't want to bring him on. Edmonton brought him on, and my God, his role in postseason has just been spectacular. So, but no, Marner plays 82 games. Marner's there all the time, and Marner does so many different things for the Maple Leafs in so many areas. It's going to be a tough day. He's a Toronto native. That's his hometown team, but he's taken a lot of compliments. He's taken a lot of criticisms because the Leafs have all these best of 7 failures over the course of his entire career. But boy, $14 million a year for Mitch Marner, that boggles my mind.
Well, I kind of like the idea of him maybe coming to the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, that would be a nice boost to that team.
At 14 mil?
Well, I don't know. They've got a lot of cap space. They could afford it. You know, is that his real value? I think that's the questionable part.
Shall be interesting to see. It's going to be tough. He leaves the Maple Leafs. That's been his team forever. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's go here. This is some Colts talk. And I thought was a good comment. This is from David. He goes, Hacksaw, I didn't realize you had a YouTube channel. I enjoy listening to your show while I was stationed in San Diego. Being from Indiana, Jim Irsay saved the Colts in Indy. Before he became the owner, the Colts were a clown show.
Unique individual. 10 different people spoke at his funeral last Monday. And that included coaches he hired and coaches he fired. And that included quarterbacks that succeeded and ones who failed. I mean, the outpouring of emotion for Jim Irsay was really, really impressive. Tragic life, a lot of problems with painkillers and alcohol, back injuries, etc. But boy, he loved his players. The stuff that I've learned about him, and I knew a chunk about him because I had interviewed him a couple times as the voice of the Chargers and when I did the Seattle Seahawks. He did charitable things at the snap of his fingers. He had an offensive center, I think his name is Ryan Kelly, who just left as a free agent. And Ryan had young kids, and his family was, I want to say Louisiana maybe. His family was not with him during the football season, and his son got very ill and might have gone to St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis. Jim Irsay gave Ryan Kelly access to his plane to go back and forth all the time. I mean, think about that. I mean, and the story I told about Tony Dungy's father who was dying, giving him access to the plane so Tony's father could come in and be with his son in the final year of his life when he was in a wheelchair. And he did so many things. A COVID outbreak came. He donated $1 million with a snap of the fingers for the Indianapolis school system to test school kids in school. So unique individual, troubled individual. I was on one talk show and they asked me what if I could describe Jim, and I don't know if this is a correct description, but I viewed him as a Rubik's Cube of a personality.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you turn the Rubik's Cube, you get different color displays.
Yeah.
That's what he was. He was so different. Did he have bad side? Yes. Troubled side? Yes. I knew his father. I knew Jim Irsay, who I thought was a terrible person and a raging alcoholic and just a troubles all the way. But Jim was different, but boy, he was beloved in Indianapolis, not just because he owned the team. He was beloved because what he did civically. He did it, and they didn't even ask him. He did it with a snap of the fingers. He was the most amazing guy.
Well, it's kind of cool here to hear from David because he's backing up everything you're saying. The people in Indiana really, really appreciated what he brought to the table.
Yeah, very much so. Peyton Manning just praised him no end. And it wasn't because Peyton was a Colt. It was because Peyton interacted with him on a whole bunch of different things, non-football wise, from a charitable contribution thing. So unique man, died too early, but he died because of part of his life.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more here before we put a lid on this.
Okay, let's go here. Talk a little Padres. This is from the Real American Muscle. Should have never made a deal for Juan Soto.
Well, you'll argue about that back and forth. Real American. Let's be understanding. They got him. They rented him for a couple pennant races. Didn't get there. First year was miserable. Second year started bad, got hot, became a superstar. Then they traded him because they were not going to be able to re-sign him. So he goes to the Yankees and has one really good statistical season, gets the payday, goes to the Mets, has not performed at all. As of last Friday, was hitting .224. His personality wears you out. I call it Mr. Me, Myself, and I. Kind of turns me off along the way. But at the end of the day, they traded a load to get him. All those young kids are playing in Washington. Washington's not been able to put enough good players around the C.J. Abrams of the worlds yet. We got access to Soto, and then obviously we traded Soto, and we wound up getting obviously Michael King, and we got some of the pieces that were used to get Dylan Cease. We still haven't been to a World Series yet, despite that deal. So they took the kick at the can. If Soto had come in and hit .323 every year, then maybe we would have beaten the Dodgers. Maybe they would have been in a World Series by this point in time, but didn't work out. You make deals and you hope they work out, and if they don't, sometimes you have to move on. No, yes.
Well, if they won the World Series, giving up all of that talent to the Nationals, we'd probably be saying, "Hey, it was worth it," right? You get the ring, you get the trophy, but they didn't. And Juan Soto, his whole persona is just like aloof and at arm's length, and he's just not really like a team guy. He doesn't seem that way. So it's easy to hate on him. And then you look at what James Wood is doing and C.J. Abrams and Mackenzie Gore. Now Robert Hassel III has been promoted. I mean, there's a lot of really good talent there. That could certainly fix the Padres left field spot, fix the Padres pitching problems if those guys were here.
So I was correct with the assessment, Mr. Me, Myself, and I.
Oh, clearly. Yeah. I mean, the Met fans are learning that one now too.
Yeah. And he just says generic junk that you say, why would you say that? The comment he made about, well, at least at Yankee Stadium, I had Aaron Judge hitting behind me. And he makes that comment, well, Pete Alonso hitting behind him is hitting .356 and is about to break the all-time record for Mets home runs in a career.
Yeah.
It's just stupid stuff.
Yeah. And it's guys like that end up making all the money too, which is just so infuriating.
Okay, a couple more here.
Okay, we only got a couple here. Let's go here. Let's talk some Pete Rose Hall of Fame. And this is from Lucan. He says, they're opening up Pandora's box.
Well, here we go. We're gonna do this. I'll be intrigued to see what the Classic Baseball Veterans Committee does. Do they put Pete Rose on the ballot? I believe they will. They put Shoeless Joe on the ballot. Does Shoeless Joe get any consideration at all? That was so long ago in 1919. You Google his statistics; they're pretty impressive. But does that open up Pandora's box now that we're allowing the gamblers who paid the price and then died? We're allowing them in. What are we doing with the steroid guys? What are we doing with Bonds and what are we doing with Clemens? We're going to have that argument because I maintain you can't write the history of baseball unless you include Barry Bonds, even though the plaque might have a steroid stain on it. And you can't include the history of great pitching unless you have Roger Clemens and the strikeouts and the Cy Young Awards. But there's a stain there too. So yeah, you're correct, Lucan. Pandora's box.
Well, all these guys deserve to get in. I think the baseball fans historically have been too freaking uptight, too conservative, you need to look at this whole thing holistically, because if you commit a sin, you break a rule, okay, you get punished for it, but they shouldn't be blacklisted. They shouldn't be sent to hell. Never a chance to get to the pearly gates. So they got to let all these guys in, and tell the full story. And when you go to the Hall of Fame, you're going to see the plaque, and you're going to see the picture and the story, and it's going to say this guy cheated, but boy, was he a hell of a player. So there's going to be some of that, and that's okay. That's okay. The Hall of Fame is meant to tell the story of the sport.
With the greatest players and not necessarily had to be the greatest persons.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our podcast.